Hi all, look, we're continuing to work on this exercise 2 PHP. This is a initial page. Realize that this project starts with exercise 2.php. It doesn't start with the HTML, it starts with the .php. We still have two forms inside this. So we need to work out where the second form is coming from, probably where I said before, and we need to get rid of it. Let's go back to Dreamweaver. Looking in here, there is a form. It starts here, it ends here, and it is inside the project. But there is also another line here which includes the form. This form gets included if it's needed. This gets included every single time. So we need to get rid of it. These lines are not relevant. Delete. Right, just looking further back, looks like there's been some sort of correction going on here. We have these comments with body and doc type in them. They serve no purpose. Let's get rid of those as well. Alright, that's a little bit tidier. So there's the body start, there's the body end. We have so much of the project there. We've now got rid of that extra form. Looking in here, indenting is pretty good, except I would probably want this to be indented as well. So I'm just going to tab that across. Just going to tab that across so it lines up as it should be. This is a control statement. Everything that it controls should be indented. So it controls this, and that's the else condition. Otherwise, it does these statements down here. All right, let's have a look at the code. This code works with age, and it starts off by setting the error for the age to be blank. It then goes on to say that if there's an error on page, false, so there's no errors on the page. It grabs the value for the age, and it also stores that value for the age in a session variable for later use. All right. It also grabs the into text name into the session variable. It stores the post of the name from the form, which is the FV name. All right, so far so good, but it doesn't store anywhere near enough. All right, age can be used for both older and younger, so it does that one. That's fine. It doesn't have an error for name, where it can say you need to supply a name, and so it appears on the screen, so the user recognizes that's not being done. All right, so let's go through how we might do that. So looking at this code here, let's extend it, and we need to have something that can store the error for name. Just going to copy that because that's basically what the code that we need. So I'm now creating a new variable to store in the session, and this is going to be error name. So now we have a place to store an error if there's an error in the name. Error on the page, well, we only need that once because it's either an error on the page because of one of three possible problems. Too young, too old, no name. And every time we make sure that we set the error on a page to be true if any of those are problems. We've managed to get the age out, and we've managed to also store that in a session variable. We've managed to get the name out, but we haven't stored that into a variable. So let's make a variable for name. This is a text variable, so for text and name. Equals, so basically we're duplicating what we had here. Int age equals the post of the age. This is going to be the same sort of thing down here. So we're going to grab post. Actually, we've got it already here. So we're going to grab that as well. I can see that color coding hasn't worked there. That's because I've typed an S instead of a $sign. Let's fix that. Alright, so be aware if the coding colors don't look right in Dreamweaver. Okay, let's split the sections up. Alright, so that's all I set up. There we store for ourselves now the age, we store for ourselves and where there's an error for age, we store for ourselves where there's an error for name, we store for ourselves where there's an error on the page, that'll be a true false variable, a boolean. We store for here the age, we also put it in the session variable, we store in the session variable here the name, and we also store it in a variable to be used. Okay, continuing down here, we have a section of code that deals with age. If the age is too big, then it says there's an error on the page is true, and it says that the error is too old. Let's break that up. So this piece of code here deals with age too big. We need similar bits of code to deal with the age too small and to deal with no name. So let's work our way through those. All right, age too small is very similar to this. Age too small looks almost exactly the same as this. Give yourself some space, stick it in there so you can see it clearly. And here we change that to be if age is. So if age is less than, and I think we said 10. Alright, so it's less than 10, there's an error on page is true, and this time the message is going to be too young. And again, we need some code this time to deal with whether there's no name on the page. So we'll do the same sort of thing again. A bit more will be changed this time because it's all to do with name, not with age. But it's the same basic steps. Here's a block of code that deals with, in this case, it's going to deal with text name. In this case, the condition is going to be if it's empty. So if empty text name, there's going to be an error on the page, and error name. The error you want to show the user this time is no name provided, or something similar. Before we get too carried away, let's make sure that nothing is broken here. Although I've stored information, I've not used any of it. So let's make sure things still continue to work. So all we've done is given ourselves 3 sections for validation. Error too big, age too small, no name provided. So as long as we've got those 3 things, then we can continue. Let's just make sure this all works. Let's save. Okay, we've got a mistake here, obviously, with using the empty statement, unexpected empty. That's on my line 38. Expecting a bracket, so somewhere I've missed my brackets when I'm doing that empty statement. Let's have a look. All right, the if statement itself, if statements themselves need the brackets. So I need to make sure that the if statement itself has brackets as well. And you can see down here it's indicating there's an error, which I should have noticed. And now we can see there's no error down there. All right, let's try again. As I said, don't do too much code without checking, otherwise you'll have errors all over the place. Let's try again. All right, we have a form and an age. Again, we'll put in our 99. Submit, comes up with too old. Let's put 6. Submit, it comes up with too young. Why does that work without us doing too much? Well, because it's already handling age. It says if there's an error with age, then it's going to put the error message here. So they work. The thing that isn't working is name at this stage. In fact, name it doesn't get filled in, whether it's blank or not. So I put something in there and click submit. The name doesn't come back. So that's not being returned to it. All right, let's work on those. All right, so where do we have to go next? Right, the next things we have to do is we have to look at our error page so it does the right things. Now, error page is a form. So if we look at it in design, we can see there's a bit of PHP at the start of the form. There's a bit of PHP beside age. And if I look at this here, so I look at the age, I can see that there's a bit of PHP here inside the value for age, which actually echoes the information from the session variable. If I look at this one and look down there, there's nothing inside there. All right, this screen, typing into this space down here is too hard. So I'm just going to put something in there that I'm going to recognize. I just put lots of X's, so that when I go to the code view, I can now see that spot. That's where all the X's are. That's where the value is. All we have to do there is echo what was stored in the session variable. We did that exact same thing down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to grab that code and make use of it, making very, very careful that I put that inside. I put that inside where the XXX's are. All right. So just looking at this PHP, what should be echoed in there is what's stored in the session variable for, and we stored it to something called text name. So text name is where we stored the name, and we put it in that spot there. In terms of us putting an error on the screen, what we need to do is echo straight after this input. So right here we need to echo so that the person using this program can see what the error is. And again, that's what we did down here in this one. After we ended the input statement, so that's the input statement, that's the input statement. After the input statement, we put some PHP, which actually echoes the error on the screen right beside it. So again, save myself a bit of typing. I'm going to copy this. Myself a space, paste it up here. And what it needs to echo is not the error age, but error name, because that's where we put the name, no name provided. So going back to our design, we can see now that there is some PHP just after name. So there's some PHP just after name. If I click on name now, I can see that there's some PHP actually in that value. And sure, I could scroll through it and have a read of it, but it's easier to see that section in code. And again, down here, there's the PHP in there to echo the age that it's got stored in the session variable. And beside it, there's some PHP code. And you can see the PHP code down here. If I just tick on that, that echoes the age. Click on this PHP, I can see down the bottom here that it's going to actually put out for me the name. All right, so that's the basic idea. And what's this bit of PHP up the top here? Oh good, that's the PHP to start the session. All right, so even in design view, you can get a fairly good idea what this program is going to do. All right, let's do a save all. And let's give that a try. So again, the program we start with is ex2.php. And just out of interest, you can see here there's another line. That's saying that this code includes some other code. All right, it includes ex2.html. It reminds you that's being included in there. And where's that include? That include is down here. None of the others have this extra line here that tells you some more code in there. Let's run this one again. So name, John, age, we'll make it, something wrong, submit, too old. It's not complaining about the name, but it has remembered the name this time. Why? Because we put that bit of PHP into the value section for the name input. All right. If I make this blank and submit, doesn't seem to be quite doing what I wanted to do, because I'd expected that to put no name provided beside here. Alright, a quick check, and looking at the code that was dealing with errors for names in my original ex2 PHP code, I can see for some reason here I didn't type the capital N, so it wasn't error name, wasn't error name in here, so that's why no message popped up, because there wasn't anything in the variable I was trying to look at. Let's try that again. Let's go straight to not having a name in there. And no name provided comes up with the error we'd expect, and too old. Let's make this too young. No name provided, too young. Let's put a name in there. The name's now okay, but it's still too young. 12 in there, which is acceptable according to our code, and we get a data correct, and then nothing. All right, it's gone off to the correct place, exercise 2_b PHP, but it's done nothing. All right, that means there's nothing happening on this page. It's gone to the right page, but now nothing is happening, so we need now to consider what should be happening on that page. I look over here to the exercise 2b, and there is nothing in there. All right, so there needs to be some sort of statement in there. What are the sort of things we need in there? Well, very, very simply, we need to start the session, because that's where all the information is stored. And I'm just going to be very quick. Save myself typing. There's a session start statement. Let's make use of that. And I wanted to say something. So we just needed to echo something to acknowledge that the information is there and correct. Really doesn't matter what we say there at this stage. I think the sector makes some suggestions for you that you should be following. And let's give ourselves a full stop to join. Remember, full stop joins. And we need the person's name. So I need a session variable, and the session variable we want is their name. So it's going to say hi, whatever, and maybe something about their age. So your age is, let's echo out their name, same sort of idea. So this is int age. And maybe some statement to say, note the spaces there to make sure it doesn't put those two things together. This age is okay. Alright, so we have something there. So now the session has started. That means all the session variables are available to us. We've stored everything in session variables, so that's very good. And we're now making this echo statement just to put something on the screen there. You know, hi, and then it grabs the information for their name by going into the session variable, finding the text name information. And it goes on to say your name. I just need a space there, otherwise it will put it together. Space, so your age is, and a space, and it will put up the age that the person put onto the screen. Then it'll finally say, this age is okay. I guess we've been grammatically correct. We'd want a full stop there to end that previous sentence. Realize that full stop's inside the quotes. It actually just prints a full stop on the screen for you. All right, I think that's enough. Let's save it. Let's go back here, and I'm going to cheat. This is already sitting here waiting for me, trying to run exercise 2.php. If I just refresh that, it automatically refreshes it. The session information is still stored on the server, and it comes up and says, hi Bill, your age is 12, this age is okay. So there we are. That's a fully working program now.